Hi everybody, how you doing? I've been waiting to tackle the subject that I'm doing today. It's called fibroids. I just don't understand the, the vast amount of people that are suffering from fibroids. I don't even understand fibroids because I've never had it. But when I did a little research on on what is fibroids and why are so many Black women suffering from it, I was in absolute shock. I couldn't believe this silent war, the battle between Black women and fibroids. So I put it out on there on Facebook and I said, how many of you, are suffering from fibroids? And the amount of mail that I got astounded me. So I thought, let me find somebody to talk to about this. And of course, the lovely Valerie Mack. I call her Valerie Mack. That's not her real name. She'll tell you her real name in a moment. I am one of them old school people that give people my own names. Everybody that's been on here could tell you that I do this all the time. So, Valerie, welcome to Let's Talk with Sherry Ann Dixon.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks for inviting me on.
You're welcome, honey. We've got to talk about this because you and I were just discussing that our family are people who just don't. Well, the women in our family just don't talk about fibroids. In fact, the older ones used to keep every illness that they had to themselves. They walked around with their head, wrapped in Limacore if they felt they were going to be dizzy, not telling us why they were doing that. And now I realized that I'm sure my grandmother, I'm probably sure my mother had fibroids, but they never tell us. So, can you tell us what fibroids is about, Valerie? Tell us, why do we get it? All those sort of things. I'm going to give you the floor.
Right, first of all, I'll give myself a little introduction to
Yes.
explain how I got to this stage. Well, essentially
Right.
back in 2017, so we're only looking at 3 years ago now, that I found myself in hospital. And this was
Okay.
around August, September of 2017. I was in hospital, attached to a drip, and they said essentially I need a blood transfusion. And that moment in time was the pivotal moment where I thought, right, I've had enough. I sat there and I thought, I've totally had enough. And from that point, I vowed to research everything I possibly could about fibroids, because I was diagnosed with fibroids back in 2002. And after 2 surgeries, both of them didn't resolve the heavy bleeding or anything like that, none of them. And also, to my cost, I also found out I was allergic to the anaesthetic. I had huge issues waking up from it. So I knew that I couldn't have any more further surgeries. So, I even though I've been in the health and wellness industry for 15 years now, I didn't actually start looking into this until 3 years ago, because my anemia got so bad.
Wow.
So I researched everything I possibly could. Once I was out of that hospital, I thought, right, that's it. For my own health and my own sake, I need to establish what's going on exactly. This is where I began to realize just how enormous the issue was. I mean, COVID, they say that's a pandemic. Fibroids is a pandemic, because it's like one of these silent diseases that women have and that they don't speak about. It
Right.
affects roughly about 80% of women worldwide, the majority of whom are of African heritage. And so, of course, I wanted to know why that was. So I started researching into it, and I had to look at, no matter where I looked at, first of all, I started looking on medical websites, because I thought, well, if I go there, surely they would have answers. And all I kept coming across, whether it was, no matter what medical centre, the Mayo Clinic, the NHS, Cleveland Clinic, all those, they kept saying the same thing: we don't know. for me, that wasn't good enough. So every time I researched something, I kept hitting a brick wall. So I thought, let me take a step back, reflect on things for a couple of weeks, and then get back to it, because I was getting frustrated, basically.
Yeah.
Couldn't find anything. And so when I started my research again, it was almost like, because I was looking for answers, you know, the universe, the divine God, whoever, whether you believe in that or not, I felt was guiding me to the right places. So in a nutshell, what I found out, that fibroids is caused by three things. That's stress, crap food, and toxicity. And that's what it boils down to. It's that at cellular level. It's what's happening with the cells at cellular level that's causing a mutation in the DNA sequence of the cells. And what I found out is that you've got toxicity, for instance, which can be internal or external, because your body produces toxins just by the natural functions that it does, where it's making hormones, breathing, whatever. And then you also take in toxins by the pollution, what you breathe in the air, car fumes, even though that's getting better now. Now you've got hybrid cars or electric cars. Toxicity, for instance.
Yeah.
Food with, oh, I've got feedback.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Food, yeah, so food as well. Sorry, I was just getting feedback that put me off. Yeah, so food as well, because we're not eating in alignment or in accordance with our anatomy and physiology.
Right.
And also the stress, there's lots of stress that we are not dealing with, because believe it or not, this stress, well, whether it's fear, it's anger, there's been a lot of fear, especially in the last 3 months, so there's been a lot of that. And all that creates inflammation in the body. Inflammation is probably one of the, inflammation is natural, but too much of it causes issues. And also, so all that causes acidity in the body. So essentially that's what fibroids are. It's too toxins in the body that are not being dealt with, that causes mutation of the cells at cellular level.
So, forgive my ignorance, because I'm totally ignorant to this, so don't think that I'm being funny, but are we saying then that Black women, or women of color then, because we do have Asian people who suffer from it as well, they is stress, let's put it in quotes, that is the main reason for fibroids?
Not only the stress, remember. Sorry?
Why then white people not getting it then?
They are getting it. This affects 80% of women. The majority are Black women. Yeah. But that's not to say white women don't get it as well, because they do. And they can get it just as bad and suffer just as bad. It's just that Black women tend to suffer a lot more, simply because of our genetic makeup, because we're eating foods that aren't designed for us. Especially if you're living in the Western world, we're eating food that doesn't agree with us. So we're eating things like dairy, for instance. And some people love their cheese. I used to love cheese. Like I was a big cheese fan. Milk, cheese, we're eating lots of protein. Whether it's mainly animals, we can't give up our chicken as well. And if you think the amount of antibiotics and hormones and excess whatever these animals are pumped with, the thing is with fibroids as well, when I say toxicity, I'm also saying excess estrogen. That causes excess estrogen. And if your liver or your bowels, your detoxification system is compromised in any way, then you won't be able to get rid of that estrogen. Because what happens, for instance, if your bowels are blocked up, because a lot of
Yes.
women are trying to fight their fibroids with all sorts of herbs and this and that and the other, but they're not detoxifying first, because I'm a
Right.
detox specialist. So my background is nutritional therapy. I've just qualified as a vegan nutritionist and also detoxification specialist. So the goal when you come to actually looking at fibroids is looking at, right, what's going on with this woman? What is she short of? Because we've all got nutritional deficiencies,
Right. Yeah.
guaranteed, because of the food we're eating. It all comes back to food and lifestyle, and it's that simple.
Wow. Well, okay, let me take you back years ago when our parents were eating all the chicken and all the beef and all those things, right? Let,
Mm-hmm.
let me let me go right back. I just can't. Are we trying to say that when they walked around with those big bellies, it was because they had fibroids, that they didn't deal with it? Because it just seems like now we're talking about more about the toxins within foods, the toxins within our body. Why is it all of a sudden an issue? Is it the
Because
food?
it's just everywhere, because they're pumping out so many chemicals. Because nowadays we've got so many chemicals in our food, in the air, in the water, in the products we use. It's absolutely everywhere. You can't escape it. So years ago, when you say, our parents, our grandparents, like you say, if they're walking around with big bellies and stuff, the chances are they did have that, because I've heard from many of my clients and lots of women I speak to that either their mother had it and they've had a hysterectomy, and or their grandmother had it, but they just don't speak about it. So literally, I'm thinking just how many women suffered in silence and are still suffering in silence. So yeah, it is a major problem. And also I have I think it's the research article from, I think it was back in 1939 or something like that, where
Yes.
they used terms like Negro and things like that, and it was an issue back then
Ah,
because they reported on it back then. So it's been an issue for many years. So when if the medical industry know this, but you still go onto their website and you read, we don't know what's causing it, and they've known about it for years, you're thinking, well, how can you not know?
hmm. So they have known for a long time, but there's not enough research done in it. Because I know a family member of mine who basically had these um, had these fibroids, but they just kept on pushing it aside and pushing it aside, and then eventually she had a hysterectomy. And I, in my research, talked to you about this. I realized that a good 60% of women who have fibroids are told to have hysterectomies.
Oh,
The,
don't
hys-
even.
the hysterectomy figures are really big. Like, for example, I was reading an Ebony one that basically says fibroids are as everyday as the common cold. It's
Yeah.
likely that if you're Black and over the age of 20, that you will have a fibroid, said Dr. Natalie Anchom, MD at Yale University School of Medicine. Fibroids are benign knots of muscle tissue. Sometimes they're really tiny, sometimes they're really big. She says, I have patients who have ones as big as watermelons, she says. And she also adds that some women never know that they have them. Others experience very heavy bleeding, cramping, menopausal symptoms long before they're meant to have them, abdominal pressure. Some of us think we're just bloating, painful intercourse, fatigue, always feeling tired, and of course, cramping, painful urination. Boy, it goes on and on and on. So, okay, we understand that it's the increase in increase in, what did you say the increase was? It was in the reason
Oh,
why
the toxicity. Yeah, our
oh,
toxicity levels. And
oh,
that's essentially what causes the growth. Because if you're not dealing with the toxicity, which is, a basic thing, but many people aren't aware of it, then the fibroids will get bigger and bigger, because what happens is that the body continually accumulates toxins over a period of time, because what we're not doing is detoxifying the body, because a lot of Black women are Christian as well, so they know about fasting, etc., except they're not practicing
right,
what, that even though they may go to church every week, every Sunday, or a couple of times a week, they're not doing what they're actually reading about.
right,
You see what I mean? So it's important to give the body a rest. So when I say give the body a rest, i.e., you give it the food it needs so it can do the job it needs to do. But if you're filling it with lots of chicken, lots of alcohol, and you're smoking, those are not foods for the body. Those are toxins. Those are toxins to the body. So if you're, for instance, if you like a drink or two, what you don't realize is that you'll end up with a fatty liver,
right.
because the liver will have to process that alcohol. And alcohol, again, is a toxin. I'm not saying don't ever have a drink again if you don't
Yeah,
want to.
because you know that's not going to happen.
No, exactly. I'm not silly, but I'm just saying it's how much you're doing it. Because if you're going to drink, then you need to ensure that you protect the liver so it can continue doing what it needs to do, which is
Right.
detoxify toxins from the body.
Okay, so let me then go back to what I think you said. We need to start detoxing our bodies a little bit more often than we are doing now, because the level of toxicity, and we think I had a drink, is higher now than ever before because it's
Yeah.
in our foods. So tell me about that. How do you suggest that we we basically detox every day or often?
Well, the
How?
thing is, I mean, simple things like drink more water,
Right.
because you know how hard it is for me to ask somebody to drink water. It's more difficult than you think it is. And the best way to do that, because a lot of people go, oh, well, I don't really like water. Fine, put something in it.
Right.
It's as simple as
Yeah, a
that.
little fruit or something in there.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing you could start your day off with is lemon water.
Okay.
That is cleansing, it's alkalizing, because even though lemon and lime are acidic, when they get into the body, they're very alkalizing. So that's something as simple as that. Eating more fruit and vegetables, ideally organic, but we know that's not always possible, especially when it comes to budgets. But even some fruit and veg is better than none at all, because there's so many plates I see that have just meat and rice, and there's no veg on there.
Right.
And also a good percentage of raw food, because most women know that they need to eat better. Most women know that,
Mm-hmm.
but food can be really, really, really addictive, especially if you love your, I don't know, breads, croissants, pastries, things like that, crisps, whatever. I'm not saying never have those again, but there are ways which you can still have those things, but you just upgrade the quality. That's what I say. You have less of it, you just upgrade the quality. Because I don't stop having, you know, chips, potatoes, not potatoes. I don't actually eat potato chips, but crisp and stuff like that. But I'm conscious of the quality, and
Okay.
that's the best way to go about it. So that's essentially it, is just upgrading the diet, and it's not difficult to do, and it's not a case of going on a diet. Oh, I'll start Monday, so I need to cut out this and cut out that. No, that's not the way I work, and I certainly wouldn't. I didn't do it, and I certainly wouldn't expect anybody else to do that, because that's too hard.
Right.
So the best way to do it is just to increase the level of fruit and veg, just introduce more things, and then maybe have a smaller portion of meat and things like that, smaller portion of rice. So you increase one thing and just cut down on the volume of the other thing that you've been eating.
Okay, I'm going to take some questions. Ladies, yeah. I'm talking to my phone and I'm talking to you there. It shows you I'm all over the place today, but I'm being human, right? If you have any questions while you're on Facebook, I'll read them because it's important that we share what we know. There's different types of fibroids as well, isn't there? There's not just the one big one that we think that look like the mango or the watermelon.
Yeah.
Can you describe them for me? Can you?
Oh God, straight off the top of my head, you've got the submucosal, the intramural. There's about 5 different types, which I don't have right off the top of my head.
The baby ones, the little baby ones that basically is harder for the doctors to take out.
Yeah, those tend to be the intramural ones. The intramural ones are between the womb wall. So that's where most doctors or consultants will just go, oh, it's easier. Because hysterectomy is easy, and I hate hysterectomy.
Yes.
They just want to take out the womb because it's just essentially it's easier for them. That's why they do it. So, but for the most part, if you go for something like a myomectomy, some women have embolization, and I'm not quite sure about embolization, but a myomectomy, depending on the type of fibroid you have and where it is, that will determine the type of operation that should be suggested by the consultant or the medical professional. But quite often, hysterectomy should be the last resort. Right. But quite often I hear that that's what they're offered. Right, yeah, they say you need a hysterectomy. Nobody ever needs a hysterectomy.
Well,
no one.
Fibroids account for roughly 1/3 of all hysterectomies. Sorry, I've just gone on to the doctor's type of website. 1/3 of all hysterectomies performed, especially in the United States, about 100,000 cases a year. Hysterectomy rates among Black women are double than any other ethnic group. With the emergency out of the way, people were able to, if you could take the emergency out of the way and not let them push you into having a hysterectomy, some people will find that they need to do a little bit more research before they give them that permission to do the robotic myomectomy.
You've got several different types of operations, like the embolization, the myomectomy, the hysteroscopy, and laparoscopy, depending on where the fibroid is and how big it is. Like I've got a US uterine fibroid market research report here. Now, not a lot of people won't even know about this. Now, if you know anything about marketing, a market research report is you're going into looking at the market and looking at how you can capitalize on that market. So you've got the intramural, like you're saying, I've got them here now, the subserosal, the pedunculated, which is on like a stalk, and the submucosal. And by treatment, they've got medication, minimally invasive procedures, traditional surgical procedures, and the end user is hospitals, ambulatory surgical centres, and others. Nothing about natural healing here.
No.
This is all about the market and how much money they can make.
That's right.
And I think when I looked at it, it was about 40 million over the next 3 to 4 years.
40 million operations.
40 million in terms of income.
income. Jesus Christ. Mon Taylor says chemical additives addition has increased over the years, including DNA differentiation, which allows the medicines, which include food, to affect WOC. This matrix is unkind to Nubians. Mon Taylor, that was very
Scientific.
scientific. I was like, hold on, let me read that again. Yeah, but you know what she means.
Yeah.
Andrea says, not Andrea, sorry. How do you detox the body?
Right, yeah, there's several ways, but the easiest way is go back to what I said before, is to look at what you're eating. So that's more increasing your fruit and vegetables, drinking more water, and also exercising if you're not already doing that. That's the best way to start, because there are detoxes I do that are a lot deeper, but you need to be ready for it because your body needs to be strong before you go into that level of detox.
Yeah.
So it's best to start if you already eat well, so you know you eat lots of fruit and vegetables, you eat lots of raw veggies, you drink lots of water, herbal teas, detoxifying herbal teas. So you can take things like a herbal tea like milk thistle, for instance, because that's very helpful to the liver. That helps the liver detoxify. It's very cleansing and it's an antioxidant. So that's going to help you the body process and hopefully, depending on what your gut's like, get rid of excess estrogen and excess toxins. And
it's
also
about bringing down the estrogen so that it doesn't, because the fibroid strives on the estrogen. Leanne says, are you saying that if you detox and change your diet, the fibroids will shrink?
No, what I'm saying is that you don't want the fibroids to get any bigger. They will get smaller, but depending on how long they've been growing, on how big they are, if they're big, like 8-9 centimeters, it's going to be a while, because if you think most fibroids have been growing for 10, 15, 20 odd years, we've been living with them for a long time. Yes. And if you want to look at, and if you've got multiple fibroids, and I'm talking multiple, to the point where you look pregnant, sometimes I think the best thing, especially if you're trying to get pregnant, is just to take out as many as you can, leaving the womb intact. But the thing is, I think we're too caught up on this fibroid shrinkage rather than looking after our health. If you look after your health, your body will take care of the rest. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. Yeah. Lillian's talking to you. I think you know her. She's in your field. Would you recommend doing a fasting from food? If yes, for how long?
The thing, when it comes to fasting, you need to know what you're doing. So I would recommend, if you have not done that before, then just start on cleaning up the diet.
Right.
Because when I started all those years ago, I didn't immediately go into a fast. It took me about 6 years before I even got there.
Right.
So all I did was just gradually change my diet. The trouble is, a lot of women are trying to jump in too fast, too quickly, because they want to get rid of the fibroids. Get off shrinking, eliminating, and think about the health. Because once you give your body what it needs, it will start reversing, everything that's been done to it, unbeknownst to you, because you've been doing all this stuff to yourself. Yes. We've all been doing this stuff to ourselves without realizing what we're doing. So just keep it simple for now. Water, upgrade your diet, exercise, laugh a lot more, have a lot more, sex if you've got a partner. Just have a lot more fun. And also the stress. We've got to deal with the stress. Because a lot of us, where's my book? Have you heard of Dr. Joel Pookaram? in her
Yeah.
book,
Yes, I
Post-Traumatic
know.
Slave
Actually, I
Woman.
know her really well.
Oh,
You
yeah.
spoke about her, and then I thought that name sounds familiar. She lives in Detroit, around that way.
Yeah.
And I
So,
reached out to her, but she's so busy and probably very expensive. But she knows me really well. Can I read something that another quote?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
cool.
Jan Hogan says, my daughter suffered terribly from endometriosis and had one invasive operation, but chance meeting with a nutritionist has meant that she has been able to manage this de- debilitating condition with changing her diet, i.e., not having milk, bread, sugar, etc.
Thank you for confirming that.
Jan in Wales, Jan, who every
Yeah,
week tunes in from Wales.
yeah,
And
because I, yeah,
like we are saying, I was saying, assuming that was all black people, Jan's not black, although she is a sister from another mother. Clara says, have you heard of STC 30? There has been testimony of shrinking it, and it's all natural. Have you heard of that?
STC. No, I've never heard. What is it?
Okay, you can answer that,
CT30.
Clara. Clara, please answer that. Lillian Lottie, thank you. Yes, dealing with stress is the most important thing. Dr. Jewel Pukram's BK, vitamins and minerals is ACE.
Yeah, got that. I
You
can.
said
I don't
that.
know. Let me see if I can.
You
Show
got it
it.
all. I am going to get Dr. Pukram on, yes. Vitamins and Mineral from A to Z by Dr. Jewel, Jewel Pukram. She's a personal friend of mine. I'm going to phone her up and ask her why is she not responding to my messages, okay? Your
Yeah.
secretary is not giving you the messages. People are just saying it's really good. You have a lot of people on here, but I want to go. Um, oh, okay, Dawn, tell me off. Why don't you, Dawn? Can we get back to the speaker? What the speaker was going to say about stress, please. I think you were talking about stress being the main thing that that causes, well, is one
Yeah.
of the causes of.
It's one of the three main things. As in, right. So what I'm saying is that all our emotions, they're all energy because we are energetic beings. We're all electric beings because Dr. Sadie said we're electric. So all our emotions, whether you believe it or not, affect you. So i.e. if you're angry, for instance, and you don't deal with that anger, that and you internalize it, that can cause inflammation because it's an energy that you need to deal with. You know, like with the Chinese, they go on their meridians, the
Yes.
meridians and stuff like that, which is why when you have acupuncture, what they're doing is they're unblocking the channels so the chi can move because it's the energy that needs to move because it
Mm-hmm.
gets blocked, which is why when you have some therapies, for instance, like you do yoga or you have a massage, you end up crying because you're unblocking stuck energy. And a lot of women hold their emotions in the womb area.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, so if you've had any kind of trauma, and a lot of us had, as Dr. Jewel Pukram wrote in her book, Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome, a lot of us still have those issues from the past. And so we need to deal with that along with any other stress that's happening to us because we're so far removed from who we are because of circumstances that happened many, many years ago that was taken away from us. So we have to, I do feel strongly about us getting back to that way of life, or at least have some of it back in our lives. So that's
That's,
one part of it.
that's interesting. Um, Andriana told me off because I missed her question. Um, she says, I'm currently pregnant with my first child and was just told that I need to have a C-section because it's blocking my birth canal. Is there anything that I can do?
You can always seek, oh, congratulations, by the way, but you can always seek a second opinion. But if you've got a fibroid that's blocking the way, obviously you wouldn't be in a position to have an operation to move that because you just can't because of the, because of the pregnancy. So if that's the case, I would suggest seeking a second, a third opinion. And if they're all of the same opinion, then it just might have to be.
I think second and third opinions are good. Um, I'm reading the questions for you because I know that you're being very good and just answering. So two-way play here. Can I please get an answer? You did answer that. Clara, it takes care of the cells in our body. It takes care of the cells in our body and it deals with the root and the repair of the cells. Leanne says, yes, the stomach is the seat of emotions. Montela says, the womb is the second brain. Hello, yes. Marlene Glad, well, I call her Marlene Greaves because that's how I know her, Pastor Greaves. Absolutely true. My husband's death impacted on my health. Thankfully, I've overcome it. Adriana Bissett, Susan McCree, she was talking to. I exercise all before and now. I do all the pelvic stuff. Only was plant-based milk and turned into complete vegan because of the smell of meat that makes me sick. I get that. I want to also read something from Miss Miller, who says, back in 2013, I had the surgery and had 6 of them removed. The largest one was 10 centimeters in diameter. It was as big as a grapefruit. And she said, I asked her, how did she feel while she was carrying them? And she said, I tried shrinking with diet, but for me, it didn't work. However, considering how many I had and the size of it, it was a bit of a long shot to try and shrink them. It interrupted sex. I felt heavy and I looked as though I was pregnant. My periods were so heavy, I would become anemic. I would have to change my sanitary towels every 20 minutes. So couldn't really plan to go anywhere whilst on my period. It was depressing time for me and sex was extremely uncomfortable. As soon as I had surgery, I got pregnant. Within 2 weeks of trying, I waited until I was 3 months post the surgery and started to try, and then I got pregnant. Yes, I was advised to definitely start having children, but for some people, it's very difficult for them to start having children if they haven't got the partner. If your partner, you haven't found the right partner then. So it's a bit difficult. She said, my sister-in-law also had one that was very large whilst pregnant and then ended up going into labor at 26 weeks. A lot of women have written to me and said that, while they were pregnant, the fibroid grew. And is that because of now you tell me what that could be.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and I know doctors tend to say, oh, because it's the hormones that where the baby's growing, it makes the fibroids grow as well. So that's to do with hormones. But I also think because the diet hasn't changed either, because unfortunately, a lot of people don't plan to have a child, don't plan for their child as much as they plan for a wedding or their holidays, because they'll plan for a whole year for the wedding, but when it comes to a baby, they think, okay, let me just go ahead, do it, and expect to fall pregnant. And when they don't, they wonder what on earth is going on.
Right.
So they don't prepare their bodies, that's themselves or their partners, for that coming child or that child to be. So when that child is there and you're still eating the same diet and you're probably eating more of it because you're eating more food, no doubt, then those toxins are still going to be getting into your body, into the fibroid, making that fibroid grow, in addition to feeding the child those toxins as well. So this is how you end up with sick babies, because a lot of women, when they give birth to sick children, they don't know why. The reason why is because you're passing your toxins onto those children.
The child.
Yeah.
Ladies, well, all of you that are in the Facebook Live, if you have questions, this is the time to ask Valerie, because she's a wealth of knowledge, but obviously she could only answer your questions if you ask them. So
Yeah.
I've asked some for you, but you can ask them as well as we go along. Or not even ask questions, but they can make statements, can't they, Valerie?
Yeah, of course they can. But I was looking at this STC 30, and I think it's just like an antioxidant. I can't tell whether it's like just a powder or a capsule or something like that. Yeah, but it's all to do with stem cell therapy. But then stem cell therapy, that goes back to Henrietta Lacks, and that's where all stem cells come from. That's Black lady. So I'm still not quite sure. I'd have to look at this. But the thing is, this looks like it's got blackberry juice powder, bilberry extract, cantaloupe extract, and a couple of other things which I've never heard of, and it's something to do with stem cells or something like that. We've got to be careful when it comes to our biochemistry of what we're putting in our bodies, because if something like STC, who made it, and will it suit our biochemistry? Because our biochemistry is very different to that of other people, of other races. So you've got to be careful at what you're ingesting and putting into your body. If it isn't a natural herb or something like that that's coming out of the Caribbean or Africa or some other hot country, ideally those two places where a lot of people of African descent reside, then do you really want to be ingesting it? Yeah. I always say do your research, because it's all too, one thing we tend to do is just probably pop along to a high street health store, buy the cheapest vitamins and minerals and pop them, thinking they're going to do anything, but most of the time they don't, because they're just cheap nonsense.
There's fillers. They have a lot of fillers.
Yeah, they've got fillers. I mean, it doesn't look like this has got that in there, but those two items there, because I've never heard of this before, because there's so many things out there, that people hear about and they think, oh, great, I'll jump on that. But all I can say is just do your research and see whether it's something that's been made for your anatomy and physiology.
Okay. Miss Stennett says, I have a coil to help reduce my heavy period and reduce my high estrogen levels. But after my recent scan, so I've lost it, estrogen levels, but after my recent scan, I've been told I have more fibroids, gosh, polyps and cysts. I've been advised to have an operation, but I'm very concerned if I also remove my coil, I will return to heavy period. Do you think once I change my diet and work on reducing stress that my period will hopefully lighten?
Yeah, the thing with I always say to women is diet. So yes, definitely. I can't say it's going to stop your heavy periods away. So you may want to take some herbs to just manage that. Right. So you could take something like Agnus castus, red raspberry, and yellow dock. Say
the first one again. I didn't hear it. Say that again.
Red raspberry, right. Agnus castus, yellow dock is high in iron. So they're all like tonifying, strengthening, and high in iron, and they're very good for the womb. And also sarsaparilla, very high in iron. The thing is, anemia, it always goes back to heavy bleeding. If you're anemic, then you need iron supplements, ideally from food, because if you get prescribed iron supplements from the doctor, your stools turn black and it's horrible stuff.
You get constipated as well.
And I've taken those. They're just horrible. And believe me, it's not food. It's not natural. We need to get back to natural. So if that lady there, so yes, if that coil comes out, you'll go straight back to the heavy bleeding. So yes, definitely get on the diet, because one thing I do is I always give my clients a bioscan first, because that will identify the imbalances in the body, because it's very specific to the individual. So I say, when I say to take the herbs, that's just general, but I always give herbs in combination, because I find they're more powerful when they work together. So certain herbs are synergistic and work better together. But those singular herbs, like the red raspberry, the Agnus castus, the yellow dock, sarsaparilla, they're all great. You can buy them loose, make teas, and just drink those as teas, and then you're on the road to recovery. But start water, herbal teas, any natural product you can find, especially if it's been grown in the sun. So that would be a great way to start, because the more you can start managing your own health and well-being,
Yes.
the less you need to rely on doctors, etc.
I like that. I like that because I've started to do a lot more of that now. I'm always boiling some bush or the other
Yeah,
because
yeah, good.
I feel
Yeah.
better for it. I do feel, but Susan McCree said I prepared my body a year in advance. I was 32, took my folic acid and other things before getting pregnant. As I said, I I did have them until I was pregnant, and each time I got pregnant, they grew. Had my last child at 46, and then my period had stopped before I got pregnant. So I could understand, but was told you can still get pregnant 5 years after the period stopped. And yeah, we know that one. We've seen lots of people surprised. Marlene Grieve says that's why we need to resist those so-called COVID vaccines
Yeah,
that they're
yeah,
trying to push on us.
yes.
DNA altering poison. That's another show, right?
Don't even get me started on that.
Yes. So, we have to come back on that. Um,
Yeah.
Miss C says, maybe I missed your answer to this question, but is there a natural way to reduce fibroids or just get rid of them altogether? You said
I already said
yes.
that goes back to diet and lifestyle and detoxification. Start with the diet and then move to detox. The diet alone, the diet change when you start eating more fruits, more vegetables, drink more water, get more exercise. If you sweat as well, because a lot of women don't like sweating. I'm sitting there sweating now. I
Yeah.
love sweating, because that for me, that just tells me I'm working hard and my body's releasing whatever it needs to release. Stop being afraid of sweating as well. So allow that to happen. So I'd say sweat, drink water, eat well. Start there, because like I keep saying, I'll have to keep going back over this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This elimination, shrinking, whatever. Think about your health long term, because if you want to live quite a while and see a lot of changes in the world, start there, because that's what I always get my clients to focus on. Think about your health and well-being long term, because we're so focused on shrinking and eliminating.
Yes.
And that's not the way forward, because if you do that, you'll keep doing things just to shrink and eliminate rather than get your health in order. Take care of your health, your body will take care of the rest.
But
And
I get it, but then for people who are suffering from fibroids, and you have them, like Leanne St. Tobin said somewhere in the text here, she said it was sitting on her, it was sitting on her sciatic nerves. It was very painful. When they took it out, and they did the surgery and they took it out, she felt light and relieved because she's not walking around with that pain all the time. And I know a lot of women actually, the getting rid of them surgically has been been a release.
Yeah. I've had two surgeries. So if sometimes surgery is the way to go, especially in cases like that. If it's sitting on a nerve or sitting on the bladder or it's putting pressure on another organ, sometimes surgery just to get it out so you can get relief from whatever it is that it's causing. So sometimes, a lot of the time, maybe surgery is the best option, especially a myomectomy, not a hysterectomy, a myomectomy or some embolization just to get that fibroid out. But what you want to then concentrate on is ensuring that you do the steps, i.e., drink water, eat a more natural diet, so you can prevent those fibroids growing back. Because if you just go back to your old way of eating, you can guarantee those fibroids will come back and then some. So when it comes to shrinking and eliminating, like I said, you look after your body will look after you.
Of
Remember,
you, yeah,
those fibroids, when you think about them, they're like flaming stones. So they're
yeah.
going to take time to break down. So don't think you can just go, oh, if I do this for 3 months and try and get rid of them. No, I've been on this journey for 3 years, and I can guarantee I can only start noticing the shrinkage now.
Ah, okay. Let
That's
me
three
read
years.
every year. Let me read Carol's testimony. Hi Sherry, I'd like to add, I know the mention of periods and fibroids. Heavy bleeding can be caused by other things. I have I have a bleeding clotting disorder, which for years I was unaware of. I now have an autoimmune disease and feel we have to be careful also of the bush. Okay, you're making me nervous now. I was taking stage for hot flushes and they brought back my seizures. So please do your homework. But she's right, because we tend to, everybody's telling us to take these bushes and we're drinking it, but you have to be very careful. And a lot of people are going to those herbalists now. You're hearing about all these herbalists that you could go to and get the bush and the piece of twig and boil it. But as she says, I've had lots of fibroids and cysts recently, had my hysterectomy, which made me feel a lot better. I've been plunged into menopause, which is another story, because they don't tell you that when you have a hysterectomy, you can go straight into menopause. It's not
Yeah,
natural.
no, that's right. And it's not only just the menopause, it's the other stuff she'll suffer from later on that she's not even thinking about yet. So I always say the womb was never created for it to be taken out. None of our body parts were created to be taken out. Otherwise, we would have been made with removable body parts.
Right.
And we weren't. So when you take out something like the womb, which is not only just for, housing children and birthing children, it's got other functions as well. But the doctor will come along and says, oh, are you done having children? Yeah, let's just take it out. You don't need it.
Yes.
That's rubbish, because it's got other functions. Once it's not there, your body's going, oh my, where's she gone? Where's she gone? So it can't do what your brain's telling the womb to do something, but it's not there.
Right.
So so later on, you might suffer the consequences of that, but there's not much you can do about it.
If you have to have the surgery, you have to have it. But really, if you can avoid it, leave the damn wound there, because it will just start, your eggs will just dry up and decide not to bother you
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. Even if
Um,
they leave the ovaries there, they will shrink eventually because they've got nothing to communicate with.
too, yeah. It's almost like somebody losing a leg or something. You remember
Yeah,
they say you can still feel like the leg moving or doing something. It's all about the mind.
yeah,
That's a Jewel talks about that. The mind is still attached, or the brain is still attached to the organ. So
yeah.
we do have to think that out. Asiba Small says, what about vitamin D? I read that the lack of it leads to fibroids. Is this true?
Yes, correct. Vitamin D, your body has vitamin receptors for vitamin D. Now we all know that vitamin D is not a vitamin; it's a hormone. it's a steroid hormone, and your body has receptors for it throughout, especially in the reproductive area. So vitamin D is responsible for, so many things like hormone production, the production of cholesterol and things like that.
Yes.
And the thing is, because we live in London, we live in an ambient climate like in London or the UK or somewhere in Europe where it doesn't get a lot of sun, and because we've been told that the sun's dangerous, so a lot of us, which is ridiculous, are now putting on sunblock when we go out in the sun. So not only do we have a natural ability to absorb the sun's ray and convert it to vitamin D, but we're blocking it by putting on sun cream. And then that sun cream, if it's not natural, it's going to have chemicals in there. So those UV rays are going to come out. The sun's going to burn those into your skin. And next thing you know, you've got skin cancer. So yes, that because also vitamin D, or hormone D as we call it, is also anti-tumor. So even the best place to get it is from the sun. But other than that, we need to supplement. But it's better to get yourself checked out, find out what your imbalances are before you start self-prescribing.
Okay.
So if you can get a test, like I said, we do like a bioresonance scan, but if you can get a test from a vitamin D test from a doctor's, because most of us who have fibroids, most doctors won't do a vitamin D test. They just don't. It's not something that's apparent.
Right.
It's either they don't know, and so they don't think to do it, or they do know and they're not going to tell us. So the best thing is get a vitamin D test either through your doctor or privately, or get some more sun. And if you burn, then you need, the way to counteract that is the diet change. You see, we're always coming back to diet. Upgrade your diet, then you'll build up a tolerance to the UV rays, because that's the best way we convert, we make vitamin D in the body.
Yes, I know. I haven't been in the sun much, although I'm living in the sun, but I burn now as soon as I go out. So I've started to take my vitamin D supplement until I work out what food that I need to take to up the ante. Wendy Biko says, what does Valerie think of having an embolization?
I've never had one myself. Like I said, I've had the myomectomy, the hysteroscopy. And so I've heard of the embolization, but you've got to look into that, because I know that there's maybe some issues with it, especially in regards to if you want to get pregnant later on down the line. So I'd say do your research all the options if you're going down the surgery route. So I'm not against surgery. All I say is just look at all the options, because there's quite a few. Right. And then obviously speak to consultants. It took me 4 years speaking to different consultants before I decided I was definitely going to do this, because I just find most of them were just slime bags, to tell you the truth.
I know. Yeah, so many things. Let me read it, because I've only got you for about another 10 minutes.
Yeah, no worries.
Lynette Sadler says, I ended up having surgery in the end, but learned that diet can help after they appeared the second time. Estrogen dominance is the cause. Carol says some bush causes more bleeding.
Red clover is one of those.
Red clove?
Red clover. That doesn't agree. And black cohosh, things like that, they're not ideal.
They tell people to take black cohosh quite often. I remember being sent that is it for nerves that they tell you?
Black cohosh, they tend to recommend for women with menopause, because it increases estrogen levels. But if you've already got high estrogen, you don't want that.
Exactly. But they send it to you so often. People are saying, great show, we need a part two. Yeah, I'm sure we do. We need a part two of everything we do on here. Montella says you can opt to keep your ovaries after hysterectomies to prevent the menopause. That's true. What else? Yes, agree about the part two. Maxine Paris says, Paris Aaron. Ms. Dixon, the presenter, mentioned other things which occur post-menopause. Can she mention some of those things? Other things that happen after menopause.
Right, after menopause or after the womb's removed?
I think that's what she means. Post-menopause, she says.
Post-menopause. Like, so for instance, I mean, apart from the hot flashes and stuff like that, depression is one of those. Like if you have your womb removed, because I'm assuming that's what she means. So if you have your womb removed, women have said, or husbands have said, that their wives came home literally like there was another, she was like another person.
Yes.
Depression is the big thing, like a change in personality. What happens is when you remove remember the womb is there. Yeah. It's a bit like if you think when people lose all their teeth, their mouth goes like that, their mouth sucks in.
Yeah, it goes funny, yeah.
Yeah. And because that create structure around the face.
Yeah.
It's the same with the womb. Once you lose, remember the womb holds up all different organs in place. That's why it's all there. If you take it out and there's a great big gap, everything's going to move down and fill that gap. So you'll end up with this little, what I call Buddha belly for the rest of your life. And no matter how many crunches you do, you'll never get rid of it. There's a good website you can go to. It's called HERS Foundation, HERS Foundation.
Yeah.
And they've got a video on there. Have a look at that video. It's about 11 minutes. And it goes through detail of the anatomy of the womb and what happens, how they remove it, and all the nerves and all the different connections that they have to sever in order to remove that womb. Because, like I said, if the womb was meant to be removed, you wouldn't have all those connections, all those, I call pipe work. You wouldn't have to, all the connections to the ovaries, the blood vessels, they've got to cut all that. That womb is not meant to be removed. None of our organs are supposed to be removed. And so they'll cut that out. And so this video shows exactly what happens. And there's a lot of information on that website that will help you. So if you're thinking about hysterectomy, I'd say go there first, research that, and then decide what you want to do. If you still want to go for a hysterectomy, that is obviously completely your choice.
Okay, Pamela Smart Window, who I've had on here, and Lynette, ladies, go on the page afterwards, and on this discussion page afterwards, and read some of the things that are being put in here. Pamela says the thyroid is also impacted with heavy bleeding and also needs checking. Lynette says, I had the embolization, not good, but easier than other surgery. Carol says, had thyroid removed also, but there's a black, Lynette says there's a black and a blue cohort, so check them out. Wendy Biko says, I know her very well, she worked with me. Lynette Sadler, why is it not good? I suppose she's talking about black and about the cohort. Okay, Lynette, I know you're on here. Can you go and answer Wendy, please? Oh, it's so good having all my people on here. Jeez. At one time, we had 75 people. That's the biggest since I've been doing my webinar. Okay. So good on you. Great discussion. Have you heard of her elimination for fibroids? I think you mentioned that before, did you not?
Her elimination.
Her, H-E-R,
Her
elimination.
foundation, but not her elimination. What's that? Is that some kind of...
Zoma, put that back in there. Miss Clark, come back and put the information in so other people can do it. Laverne Miller says, DIM Plus is also good for hormone balance. I don't know.
You've got to be careful with DIM because you've got to know the dosage with DIM, because some people, if you self-medicate with these herbs, because remember, herbs are powerful. So if you're going to self-medicate, you've got to know what you're doing, especially with DIM. Because DIM can work either way. It can make things worse or it can make things better. So you've got to know what the dosage is, which is why it's always better to be checked out first.
Okay, and Carol says postmenopause, we were wondering about the question about postmenopause. She says you get thinning bones.
Yeah.
Please talk to me
that's because you haven't got the estrogen. You haven't got the hormone balance anymore.
Okay. And look, we've got so many questions in here. Susan Lysett Davis says, as you mentioned, husbands and partners, what, if anything, is being done to prepare them for these period of changes? That's a really good question, because they don't understand. I had somebody ask me that question. What can men do about preparing for menopause and obviously these changes that we're going to go through?
The best thing to do is read up on it. Read up as much as they can on menopause, but also women need to read up on menopause, because men go through their menopause as well, but it's less recognized. So we both need to read up on that, because we know that's why men when they get to a certain stage, they get grumpy and stuff. But with men, I think if there's a book, there's loads of books on hormone balancing and things like that, menopause. If you can get them to read something simple, or even if just a little pamphlet on menopause, then that will be really helpful to them, because they now know why you're acting the way you're acting. Yeah.
At least they'll understand that when you're fleeing the chicken across the room, which I did, that basically it's not personal. It's just you're getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
Come out of the room if you don't want chicken felt at you.
Well,
okay. So Lynette, find Wendy Biko. There's so many people on here. Do you know that this subject of menopause, fibroids, hysterectomy, all of those things we're going to have to do again, because I think an hour is not enough. Thank you for the people who've come in here and asked questions. I know that all our specialists, because I can see them in here. I can see Donna Spence, who deals a lot with food and food and nutrition. There are a lot of people in here. You can help to answer some of these questions. And of course, Valerie will come back into the thread and give some answers. Valerie, can you tell them where people can get hold of you, or what you can offer them? Is there any special offers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I've got, if anybody wants to do a mini detox, I've got a free 5-day estrogen detox, which they can start on. It's very simple. It's got all the recipes in there, and it's going to help with the food and the recipes, because you've got 5 days of breakfast, lunches and dinner. That's going to help drive down inflammation, and it's going to help you detox the body, so you can start eliminating some of those excess toxins. And it's not a quick and easy detox. It's a very simple detox with very simple recipes. So if you're struggling to clean up your diet, for instance, this is one way that you can just read the information and then just go along. I mean, if I just get some details of it up here, let's have a look at my detox. Where is it?
I will wait for you.
Yes, no worries. Yeah, pity I can't do a screen share. Otherwise, I would. Yeah, I can't find it right now. I think it's one of my other files.
You can always go back into the thread and put it in there, can't you?
Yeah. Do you want me to put a link to it?
Yes. If you can go back into the thread and put the link to it when you find it, don't stress yourself out. But I want people to know how to get in touch with you, because
so people can email me at Valerie McKen at gmail.com. So that's
Mackenzie, Valerie McKen.
Yeah, McKen, MCKEN at gmail.com. And you can email there, just ask me any questions you like. You know, just even if you've got some nutrients like this SCT you want to mention to me, things like that, I will look into things like that, because I'm always interested in learning about things, because people always know you can't learn everything. So if people know stuff that I don't, I'm happy to look into it. So it's not a problem, but this is all a learning process for everybody.
It is. And you know what? I just had this brilliant idea. I would like to bring you back with my other three or four people that have come on here to talk about nutrition and detox, because it's all right, people talking about detox. I don't even know where to start. Somebody needs to help me. Okay, even if you can do a little plan for some of the people to help them, I think that would be nice. And so if I bring back all four of you, and you know who you are because you're in the Zoom, I can see you. I will ask you to come back. So we talk in advance, and I'll get the questions in advance about how do we detox, because it's not just going and getting a colonic, is it?
It's a lot more to it than that, especially when you've got fibroids. There is so much. I spent 18 months detoxing on and off, doing various things, but then I've built up to that.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend anybody do what I did, because I went through some serious health. But like I said, when it comes to detox, you start with diet. So this is why I'm giving the 5-day estrogen detox for free, because this is your inroads into a detox.
Okay.
Because dealing with fibroids is a journey, because the medical professionals can only help you so far. Great if they can take them out. I always say, if you have surgery, it's a great way just to get them out, have a clean slate, and then do all you can to make sure they don't grow back. And I think that's a great way to go about it.
You're so right. I know somebody who basically detoxed by having, the bit that I remember, she got rid of eggs. Well, she only had egg whites. She didn't have egg yolks. She got rid of cheese and all those things that you're talking about that helps to exacerbate the fibroid, make it grow, give it some food. It's like, feed me. Yeah. And then you go to people and say, when are you due? And they're not even pregnant because they're pregnant. So Valerie, at this point, because we've been on here for an hour and 14 minutes, and I know people would want me to keep you much longer, if you could go on the thread when you've got a moment and
I'll do that.
Answer questions, maybe put the link in, your email in, put your special offer back in there, and the ladies who are in here in the Facebook live link, if you can give your details as well, or help the other person to understand, because it's not easy. Everybody's saying these things like it's easy, but some people don't know what are the right products to take and not to take. So will you come back?
Yes, of course.
With the others?
So yes, I'm quite happy.
Thank you so much. And you
You're
have a good
welcome.
day. And
And
ladies,
you.
I hope I've delivered again for you. Any other questions that you have, please, or things that you want me to cover, just send me a message, inbox me, or put it on the front of the Facebook page. I'm not afraid to tackle your issues. Just tell me and I will do it for you. One of the other things that I want to talk about, and I've seen about 15 messages recently, is the subject of beauty, because we did it before, but we only, when you do it with lots of people, you have to share the stage. We want to come back and deal with the issues of skin. People don't, skin tags. We were debating about skin tags. Why are we getting skin tags? How do you get rid of them? Are they a virus? Because somebody in some page is saying it's a virus and that you get it. And I get confused because I've got them growing all over the place. I'm running from the sun. I want to tackle those things. So I'll see if I can pull that up for next week or the week afterwards. But ladies, you have a good day. If you're in the UK, have a good evening. If you're in the Caribbean, then have a good evening. I'm going on another webinar because I'm going to do a book launch for Dr. Sue. Have a good day. See you again sometimes. Stay safe, all right?